On this episode of Honda K24 swapping our Mazda Miata, we close our hood, Matt pours some oil, and we start our K-swapped Miata for the very first time. Today is going to be a very exciting episode with this K-swapped Miata. Today we are finishing up the final touches that this thing needs, and then we're gonna give it a first start. So right now Matt has the hood out over here because we need to get that thing back on. We're gonna trim out some of the support so it fits over this tall K-series engine in here. This does have the custom valve cover that has been machined down, so we get a little bit more clearance, but we still need to trim a little bit out. We need to fill this thing with fluids, do a few other small finishing touches like finish up the fuel line, and then we're gonna be starting this thing up, and hopefully all will go well. Let's get right into it. Alright, so we got the hood temporarily on here. We're just gonna protect the valve cover where we think it's gonna hit right there, and then we'll slowly lower it into place and see how everything feels and see how our clearance is with this engine.
Okay.
Alright, so
kind of to be expected.
Yeah, pretty much exactly to be expected with it not closing all the way. Alright, so under the hood here we need to cut out that crossbar and then also a little bit of that support right there, and that hopefully will give us more clearance so this hood will close pretty nicely. Here's what we got all cut out on our initial cut there. We're gonna see how this thing fits. It's looking close to closed.
Yeah.
Alright, so we just forced the hood shut a little bit. We're having a little bit of clearance issues. It's not horrible. As you can see, we did get that popped down, but we're using a very scientific method here that Matt could go ahead and show you. That's working pretty well.
Oh yeah. So we got some white lithium grease that we made a little grid with on this paper towel to kind of figure out where it would transfer to on the hood. And then we went to just putting lithium grease on, like, directly on this, first the nut that was on top of it, now the stud itself, to see where it transfers. And you can get an idea of exactly where the interference is. So it looks like we're still having a little bit of interference there, but we're able to get the hood latch. So it's tight, but it's pretty good for my standards.
Yeah, for right now, I think we're pretty good.
Yeah.
Right in the center, just, yeah, like you're giving the thing CPR. That looks pretty decent, honestly. It's not too bad.
Yeah.
We could improve it, but gaps look not too bad on this side.
They're a little worse on that side.
Yeah, they're definitely a little worse on this side, but they're not perfect yet. That's something that we'll work on down the line, but for now, we're just gonna work on getting this thing started.
Oh yeah.
All right, now we're gonna go ahead, put oil in it, put some coolant in it. What are we running for oil in this beast?
We got synthetic 0W20. That's what's on the cap and what people recommend for this engine out of the TSX.
Cool.
And then the coolant is just the standard Honda Blue.
Real question though. Is that oil filter easier to change than the stock Miata?
Oh, 100%.
Easier to get to. Looks like
Absolutely.
you're still gonna dump oil down the side of the engine every change.
You know it.
Alright, so now Matt's gonna put in that last quart of oil and we're gonna fill it until oil starts to come out of that hole right there. That's what's recommended for this setup. Alright, we had a little surprise here. So we forgot that we didn't 100% tighten down that intake manifold, and there is a area that coolant runs through. So right now we're dripping out of there. We just got that catch pan down there. We're catching what's coming off. We already basically got the leak stopped, but we're fixing it for good, and then we're going to be pretty close to all set with this thing. Matt has made huge progress on this thing since the last time you saw it. So he has the fuel lines all set up, and he put a lot of nice heat wrap on everything that's close to the exhaust, so hopefully that will keep it all cool. He got this carbon cooling panel back on here. He cleaned up a lot of the wiring, and this thing is looking sweet. So right now, you want to tell him what you found, why we couldn't initially get it to crank?
Yeah, so I went to do the first crank just to build some oil pressure, but I turned the key and it didn't crank at all. Didn't even try to engage the starter. So what we found was that I originally thought that I had wired it under the dash so that I could use the Miata's starter signal wire and just extend it to the K-series starter. But I got confused. I guess the way that I had actually done it made it so that the starter signal wire in the K-Power harness was the correct one to use. And we found this out just by having Cash in the car, turning the key to start, and I was checking the voltage to ground at both the starter signal wire of the K-power harness and the extended Miata wire.
Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and splice in the correct wire to the starter signal and then try to crank it to build some oil pressure. And then once we do that, we're confident that we have oil throughout the engine, then we will try to start this thing up for real. Alright, so Matt's all connected to his Honda here with his laptop. We're getting ready to make some big power. And really, we're just going to try to crank this thing. So we should be all hooked up. I'm outside the car now, obviously, and we're going to go ahead and see if this will turn over under its own power.
Oh, the coolant and intake temps are 69 degrees.
Nice. That's how you know it's a good day.
Oh yeah. Alright, you ready?
Yep. Nice.
Okay, so it cranks. I'm very nervous.
Yeah. That's awesome that it cranked.
Oh yeah.
Alright, so now Matt just went ahead and wired in this 1.6 liter Miata oil pressure sender into the K-series here. Now this should allow us to have the gauge on the dashboard read right, because the 1.6 gauges actually read oil pressure and they're not an on-off switch like the inferior 1.8 gauges. What'd you say?
I got pressure.
Alright, awesome. Alright, now we just went ahead and set our base fuel pressure. To do that, Matt was turning this adjuster right there while I was priming the fuel pump, and we got this thing up to our 45 PSI, so now we should be able to plug everything in and try to give this thing its first start. So, I'm kind of nervous about this thing. This isn't even my car. How nervous are you right now, Matt?
I'm pretty nervous. This is a long time coming. I just want it to work.
Yeah, it's been a really long time coming. A lot of hours went into this thing, but now should be the time that we turn this key and see if it starts. I'm really hoping it does, because I cannot wait to see this running in this car.
Oh yeah.
I'm ready. I'm nervous.
Me too. Just be ready to like check fluids and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it wants to.
Jeez. Should we do it again?
Yeah.
Ready?
Whoa. Alright, so we got a serious backfire there. We're going to try to flood clear this thing. So we unplug the injectors. We're going to crank it over, try to get any excess fuel out of the cylinders that are in there. And then we'll try to start it up again. But yeah, we just want to make sure that this thing is fresh and pretty much good to go. So we don't want it absolutely saturated with fuel. Oh, there it is. It's running rough, but
Really rough.
yeah.
It sounded very rich.
We could check the data log
Yeah.
and see if the wideband came through with that.
Okay, so it ran.
It ran.
It was at like the tack was at 0.
Okay, so
Maybe
it
just
wasn't.
been not enough air, too low. I was trying to give it a little bit of throttle there.
Yeah.
Maybe I just needed to give it more.
Alright, so we got it started. That was a good first step, but we just took a look at the data logs and there are a few things that stuck out to me. One is it said the ignition timing was 20 degrees retarded, which is really not where it should be right now. So I don't know if that's a sensor problem or if it actually was trying to run like that, which would make it run sort of how it was. It also is running pretty low RPM wise, so it could be timing, and it also could be where the butterfly is set on the throttle body. So we're going to try to open that up a bit, see if we could bring that idle up, and see if we could get this thing to run better. Alright, so we got that butterfly ever so slightly cracked here. We're going to put the intake back on and see how it runs. Hold on.
You okay?
Yeah, we got a little bit of smoke out of the breather. I apologize for the weed whacker sound right now. We are working with the Honda after all. But anyway, right now we are swapping the intake and the exhaust cam position sensors, just the wires there, because we think that those were incorrect. The guys at K-Power said that some of those were shipped just with them labeled wrong, so we're swapping those and hopefully that fixes our problem. Alright, so that time Matt just turned it off real quick as a precaution. So right now it seems like the sensors are right. This thing fired absolutely right up, and now we're going to adjust that butterfly valve to close it back up because we have it a little bit more open than we think it needs to be because we were trying to compensate and just get it to run earlier. That seems positive 20?
Yeah, 1200 RPM and dropping a little bit.
It seems like it's running pretty good. How excited are you?
I'm excited, dude. I'm so nervous.
It's going good though. This is fun. So this thing's sounding really good right now. We are getting some smoke as stuff burns off of the exhaust, but I don't think this is anything to be concerned about. We just turned up the fuel pressure a little bit. It's running a lot more how it should be now. AFRs are looking better, and right now I am pretty happy with this. Alright guys, so there it is. The K24 is in the Miata, it's running, it's idling, and everything seems to be going smoothly. Matt, how excited are you to have this thing in the car and running?
Dude, I can't believe it. I'm so happy about this.
This is awesome. So next episode is going to be us taking this thing for its first test drive. If you want to see that right now, you could head over to my Patreon page. That video is live there. If you want to wait a little bit, it will be on the channel coming up pretty soon. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it, subscribe for more, and I hope you stick around for the next one. Take care.